What a night. Wrexham of the Championship, 3. Nottingham Forest, 3. Wrexham win 4-3 on penalties. Into the fourth round of the FA Cup, Phil Parkinson said the one thing missing from his time as Wrexham boss was the chance to go head-to-head with a Premier League side, preferably on home soil. Wrexham, knockout, fell the trees, the Forest is on fire. Wrexham into the next round. This incredible football journey, the football fairy tale, has another incredible chapter written into the book. On today's podcast, emergency podcast that we are very happy to record, myself and Nath will relive that Friday night under the lights at the Kairos, what it meant to us, what it means for Wrexham, and what it means for the rest of the season. We'll let you know who our standout players were, share some of your thoughts on the match as well. And of course, we're going to talk about who we might want in the next round as well. So sit back, relax, as we relive Wrexham dumping out Nottingham Forest.
Rob Ryan Red.
Nath, where do we start? We have been spoiled in recent years, but we've also been spoiled as a football club over the decades. Wrexham's relationship with the FA Cup is one of the most storied in history. You know, Wrexham, the third oldest professional team in the world, the oldest international football stadium in the world. We've been known for cup upsets in the past. That used to just be kind of our calling card. Arsenal, you think of the cup run in 97, you think of the heroics, you think of that Blythe Spartans game. These are the tales we were told about growing up. And it always felt for our generation that those glory days were behind us. Pre-match, me and my dad would talk about the games we've been to. Stoke away 2015, Brighton at home 2012. Both games that were up there as the best Wrexham we'd ever seen. Both games that we'd lost in the FA Cup third round. We are into the fourth round and we've just knocked out a Premier League team. It feels like there was this exclusive members club before we were born of jumping 97. No, I was 3 years old. I don't remember that at all. But now we've seen it, and the race course packed to the rafters. And what an occasion.
Yeah, get in there. That's what I want to say. Get in there, mainly. That's mainly what I wanted to come on and say. Been bottling that up until we were recording. Get in there, because I've said so often, and people call me out and call me everything because I was a little brat about the Cardiff game. But that against Nottingham Forest was exactly why I love the Cup. Because you will talk about that game in 5-10 years' time. Like, it just will be a thing. This week, what did we say on the last podcast? Coventry. Coventry still one of the great games. You know, they did similar. They brought on players like the Gyökeres, who we now see playing up front for Arsenal and is worth X amount. And on came Nico Williams. On came Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Murillo. You know, players that are linked routinely with the big six in the Premier League. Callum Hudson-Odoi almost went to Bayern Munich in a kind of previous era. You know, these are unbelievably expensive and top-level players. And there we were, going toe-to-toe with them for 2 hours. And I know we're going to get onto certain players and kind of, you know, specific people that really, really shone. But everyone did. Like, everyone out there, whether they were on as a sub, whether they were on from the start, that, you know, and we've seen today, before we record this, you know, 6th Division Macclesfield FC. Amazing. I'm delighted for them. So I love the FA Cup. For all the people that the league is important, don't get me wrong, promotions are important, and that is what most clubs will say privately if they had to pick. But memories are built in cups. Memories are built in the FA Cup. Arsenal, West Ham, you know, like you said, for you, Stoke or Coventry or Brighton when we went away there, and Adrian Chislovich parts Brighton's defence and we're going home, and it felt like the quickest journey back of my life. We'd just drawn against Brighton. And even then, the return game, obviously another penalty shootout, that one doesn't go our way. But you know, when you look back on games, more often than not, they're cup games. And a genuine piece of Wrexham history was made. And we've made a lot of it, don't get me wrong, in the takeover era, but delighted for everyone there, delighted for Ryan to be there, delighted for Ryan's mum to be there. it was just a really, really, really special night, mate.
It's what it is all about, and again, that is, it almost felt like, again, lots of people will be saying, and I cause a lot of sort of outrage on social media by baiting lots of people who love to hate Wrexham by saying, the fairy tale continues. Because for me, 10 years ago today, 10 years ago, we were 8th in the National League, we finished, and me and my dad were speaking pre-match, and people will say, look, no, a high-flying championship team knocking out one of the lower-end Premier League teams, that's not an upset. And if you look at sort of raw league positions, what is it, maybe like 15 places maximum between both of us. But what I love the most is people who love to hate Wrexham will say, oh, they're crap, the worst team you've ever seen in the Championship, they're out of their depth in the Championship. And then when we beat a team for the Premier League, it's like, yeah, but they spent all this money, they're basically a Premier League team already. And when we eventually get promoted to the Premier League, people will be saying, well, Wrexham are going to finish with the lowest points total ever, they won't win a game, they're not good enough. But when we beat a Premier League team, it's all, how can we diminish this and make it feel like it's not an achievement? How can we make it, twist it so Wrexham fans can't be happy? And people say, oh, it's not a fairy tale. Me and my dad were speaking pre-match, and we would talk about that Brighton game because I went to that with him. And that was a game that got snowed off the original fixture, very similar to the circumstance we've got in North Wales now. And it was delayed by a day. Brighton with this Championship team, we'd already played them down at the Amex, 1-1, like you said, came back to the racecourse. Quite a similar game where we missed chances to win it in normal time, hanging on a little bit by the end. There was really sort of chaotic in extra time. And then we lost on penalties. Dean Keats, I think, was the only player to miss for Wrexham that night, from what I seem to remember. And if you had told me that, what is that, sort of 13 years ago, or 14 by the end, that in 14 years' time, Wrexham would be a high-flying Championship team and would be knocking out a Premier League team, that is fairy tale stuff to me, because I've watched in envy at all the FA Cup great upsets we've had in the past. And even like Sheffield United, one of my favourite memories of my life, is still a tie we lost. Coventry is one of the only exceptions where I remember is actually winning a high-profile cup tie in my lifetime. I've seen us get knocked out by Stanford, in a fourth qualifying round replay at the racecourse. There wasn't many of us there for that, I can tell you. I've seen us lose. I can't remember if Gainsborough Trinity was FA Cup or not, or if that was FA Trophy, but not the one that was in the semi-final, by the way. And like for me, and who I was as a kid, just I dreamt of nights like Friday night. So don't you dare tell me it's not a fairy tale, because it's all I ever wanted, and it meant so much. And it was just such an outpouring of joy and raw emotion come the end, and just that fight. And that's what's annoyed me so much this season. I know it's so easy that we come across as entitled brats, but the Swansea game, the Cardiff game, two of the most high-profile matches we played this season, we just didn't give a good account for ourselves, and we didn't show that fight and determination. And if we'd lost on penalties on Friday night, okay, we wouldn't be doing an emergency podcast, but I would have been so proud of that performance. And yeah, it went our way in the end, but that's what Wrexham's all about, is that fight, that underdog spirit. And hey, if you're telling me we weren't underdogs and that wasn't a fairy tale against that Forest team that finished the game, then you are deluded.
Yeah, I tweeted out exactly that. I just said, look, whatever happens from here, I'm so proud. We threw punches back. I've been saying it for weeks. You've got to throw punches back. You can't just overly respect teams just because they're above you in the pyramid. When I was in the My Squin before, I said to you, I'm confident. I looked at that team. They did exactly what we thought they would do and make wholesale changes. They did stick with their first choice goalkeeper, Matt Sells. They did go with the first choice striker in Igor Jesus. But around that, they did what we thought they would do. They would play McAtee, they would play Louise, they would play the likes of Hutchinson. Obviously came off at half time against West Brom, Morato, and various others. And obviously by the end, it looks very similar. Zinchenko was on and really wasn't very good at all, I didn't think. But I just felt confident. I just felt like, look, momentum is with us right now. We are riding that purple patch, that crest of a wave. And, they expended a lot of energy, their starters, on that game on Tuesday night against West Ham. But I don't want to... I'm fair play to Sean Dyche. He didn't do this. While he called out his players after in the most strong terms, he didn't want to take anything away from Wrexham. I thought Sean Dyche was a class act, really. Didn't do anything to try and take the achievement away from Wrexham. We really, really grafted. And I have to say, when Hudson-Odoi equalised at 3-3... I said to my sister, who I went to the game with, I said, we probably need penalties now. That I don't think we've got another Florian Parkinson himself alluded to after that. if anything, he just wanted to get to the break in extra time so that we could stop feeling sorry for ourselves, because kind of the mood in the ground had just felt like, oh, is this our missed opportunity again? You mentioned that Sheffield United game at home. I was in Philadelphia for that one, and we knew what the carrot was if we were to get through. Or we maybe didn't know at that point, but we equalize, or they equalize, and you obviously go to Bramall Lane, and you don't get through when you know what the reward is, a game against Tottenham. So it was easy to feel like maybe missed opportunities, but we're just. I saw someone put a tweet saying Wrexham are like a non-league team on steroids, and they were saying it sort of endearingly that like, I like this team because they aren't this like, yes, they've spent money, but they're not looking, they're not out there with players like Morgan Gibbs White, or they're not completely doping their way through this thing. There are still a lot of players in there that Premier League teams wouldn't even take a second look at, and most Premier League teams wouldn't look at Wrexham's players, which is good for us, but they're just a really, really gritty, hard-working bunch when they want to be. And right now they really want to be. And Friday night they really wanted to be. So, yeah, couldn't have been prouder.
Again, we've said this so much about that's what Parker gives you, that fight, that determination, that just strength that you're never beaten, and that togetherness. And you mentioned it there, because again, it's so easy. People say, "Oh, Wrexham have thrown all their money at it." Yeah, but we didn't have we didn't have Max, who's arguably our best defender. We didn't have Kabore. We don't have Kiefer Moore. We don't have Danny Ward.
Matty James.
There was so many people missing already. And again, we'll get onto our two kind of standout players, but people there saying, "Oh, Wrexham, they're killing football." This isn't me trying to be disparaging. We brought on James McClean and Jay Rodriguez. That's not a team that. So, do you know what I mean? That those aren't players that you would necessarily bring on in those circumstances. I know they've got the fight and the experience. I think they both, were crucial in the extra time period, actually, in managing the game and ensuring that we held out for penalties. But people find it so easy just these people who don't have a clue about Wrexham think they know everything. And it's like, no, guys, we're not bringing on all our superstars and stuff. We were missing lots of our key players there. And again, the point I made earlier, Nath, this is what I want to read to you again when I talk about the fairy tale, and I'll leave it on that because I need to get this off my chest. When people are saying this isn't a fairy tale, it is 10 years ago this season, 15-16 season, we went out in the FA Cup fourth qualifying round at home to Gainsborough Trinity. We lost 1-0 to a Nathan Jarman goal. Gary Mills, of course, former Nottingham Forest European Cup winner, played his strongest Wrexham team as well. And we lost 1-0 at home to Gainsborough Trinity. So 10 years ago, we were losing in the fourth qualifying round. And now it's not a fairy tale. We've just knocked a Premier League team out to go into the fourth round. Okay. Sure.
So don't go back at Rich. Let him have his fun on social media. Rich, I know you were slightly more sceptical than me before the game, which is understandable. Premier League team, they had a lot in reserve on the bench. I just want to know what you were feeling when Kikache rifled into the bottom corner right in front of you for his first Wrexham goal, because I couldn't even realise who had scored initially. It was kind of just a bit of a blur the whole match, really, but that specific sequence. But when that went in, or I don't know whether it was that one or the Rathbone one, but when did you start to think this is absolutely on here? Like we've got them on the ropes.
I would be lying to you, I think, if I said that the Kikache goal was just that moment. And I was so lucky because I am like central in the tech end, like right behind that goal. And a goal scored in front of me just counts for so much more. It just means so much more because it's there right in front of you and it means so much. And the Kikache one, and for it to be Libby Kikache, for Wrexham fans, you need to be a Wrexham fan to understand what that means, because he's a guy who we all love and we want him to be amazing. And there was a chant going off in the tech end about him saying, like, we've never had a player like you before. And he just felt like that exotic addition in the summer and a guy who's just not had luck. And Wrexham fans will think kind of wrongly that he's really injury prone. He's never been injury prone in his career. He's just had rotten luck for the first 6 months here in North Wales. And you think this New Zealander who lived in Empoli is now playing in North Wales. Like, God, do you think he sometimes regrets joining us because of the way it's kind of unfolded? And then he has that moment and he gets it and he gets the reward for his hard work. And again, when he was injured, and people were sort of saying, "Oh, yeah, no, Thomason's better than you. You're not going to get it." For him to have that moment, I think so happy for him. I wouldn't say that was the moment that made me believe. When Rathbone scores, 2 minutes later, then I was like, "This is on." But as bedlam as that was, because I'm a cynical Wrexham fan who's been so hurt by trauma in the past, when Sam Smith missed that one-on-one at the end of the first half, I was like, that's the moment. That is the moment it's going to cost us. I was like, because Sam Smith had played so selfishly and made so many runs and ran his socks off, and he almost had too much time with that one-on-one. And when that doesn't go in, you think 3-0 at half-time, it's done. Stop the count. But when that happened, I was like, nah, I'm quite worried now, especially when you saw that triple at half-time. But how are you feeling at half-time? Because I think it was a real mix of emotions that we just scored 2 goals, and then that miss, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah. And I think you could see maybe some of the staff thinking, oh, God, that would have been basically it. I was still in absolute dreamland at half-time. Just trying to process. I just love Ollie Rathbone. I love Kakachi, don't get me wrong. I just love Ollie Rathbone. I love the way he celebrates. I love the way he plays. He plays like a lot of people would if they had the opportunity, which I don't really know if that makes sense as a point, but like he just plays like a lot of fans would if they had the ability to play football. He genuinely does care, and he looks like he's having fun. Like it looks like pressure doesn't weigh heavy on him. I know he's spoken about, how down he was and, when he was out of the team and how he felt so detached from it because he cares so much. And don't get me wrong, all those players care, but he just and let's remember that Ollie Rathbone came through Man United's system with the likes of, Marcus Rashford and you might know other names, but that kind of similar ilk and group.
With McTominay as well, I think. Yeah.
Who's that?
McTominay?
McTominay, yes. So I'm saying he's growing up, and obviously at that age, he's probably thinking, right, I'm destined to become a Man United player or a Premier League player or a top level player, and he's had to really earn his way back up the pyramid. Like he's had to really graft all the way to build himself back up to the point where now he looks absolutely, a top end championship midfielder. He's got the quality, he's got the goal scoring ability, and it's at this point it's futile to write anyone off making the step up because we just don't know. People didn't think George Dobson would step up. I don't know if George Dobson thought he could step up, and yet he has. He was phenomenal. We'll get onto him very shortly. But yeah, Ollie Rathbone, the way he plays, the way he runs, the way he celebrates, and that was all about his goal was all about tenacity. Broadhead I thought was great again. He's in such good form, but it was that tenacity. It was like this ball's going to keep pinballing around off people off random stray legs, and I'm just going to keep scrapping like Scrappy do, and it might come to me, and it did, and I'll just hit it. And when it presents itself, one of us will hit it. You know what I mean? Where the Kakachi one's more of a move, it's on the edge of the box, it's a brilliant drilled finish. The Rathbone goal, it's all about desire. That's what it is. That goal was down to who wanted the ball more in that position, Forest or Wrexham, and Wrexham.
Again, this is a broader topic we'll maybe get onto on next week's midweek podcast, but like losing Kiefer Moore to injury has kind of made us it's forced us to evolve our tactics a little bit. Like I said, Broadhead's really come into it because he's seeing more of the ball and got a bit of a different role. Sam Smith, we're playing balls now into those channels, into that space, just trying to really stretch defences where with Kiefer a bit more predictable, I think, with our build-up play, for better or for worse. That's fine. And it was that culmination. We're going to get onto our 2 standouts after a short break in a second. But we also need to talk, because this will still surprise people, like Arthur is not one of those stand-up players we're going to talk about, but start of the season, he was replaced by Danny Ward, and there's been shaky moments, and you only have to go back not even less than a month, it's probably like 2-3 weeks, Swansea away, where people are questioning Arthur again. And his response and the character and the saves he was making, okay, there's still a few moments where his kicking is worrying at times from distribution, but wow, what a response. And again, when people are saying about all the money Wrexham has spent, these are sort of project players. You think of like Dobson, you think of the work that Max has done throughout the leagues, you think of what Arthur did. He joined us in League Two, and now here he is in the Championship fulfilling his potential. And if everything had gone according to plan, he wouldn't be Wrexham's number 1 right now. It'd be Danny Ward. But he has stepped up so impressively this season, man. And for him to have that moment in the shootout, goalkeepers love shootouts because it's never really on you. But every single penalty, he went the right way. He so nearly saved the Nico one. The Hudson-Odoi penalty is exceptional. Like he does everything right and still doesn't save it. But for him to then get into the players' heads, like that's such a big moment for Arthur.
God bless the water bottle method. It's undefeated. People, when they asked him after what's on the water bottle, he said it's a secret. I mean, I'm assuming it just said which way each player was going to take it. So I'm not sure it's the most exciting secret of all time, but good on him. And, there's a lad I know called George who covers Arsenal's academy impeccably, better than anyone else. And, so I bow to his knowledge when it comes to Arsenal. And he tweeted before, and I shared this on Twitter, where he said, apart from Martinez and Chesney, who was signed from abroad, Arthur Okonkwo is probably the best goalkeeper Arsenal have gone on to produce in the last few years. Playing in the Championship at 24, he will probably get a chance in the Premier League eventually. You think of all the players that have come through Arsenal, like all the different talents that they've had from different countries, and even in the FA system, Arsenal have had a lot of goalkeepers over the years. And if for George to say that he thinks Arthur Okonkwo is basically the best of the lot is huge praise. And you remember, if you listen to one of those recent podcasts, I actually asked Phil Parkinson after, the Sheffield United game, I asked him about Arthur Okonkwo and his mental toughness and how proud he was. So if you haven't heard that, you can go back a couple of shows, and I think it was whenever after the Boxing Day game we did a little mini pod, and in that you can hear Parkinson's response to my question about Arthur, and I was just thrilled for him because he's taken a lot of flack, not just from the fans but just externally in big TV games. I think Blackburn in the FA Cup previously. I think Swansea in the league. There are maybe others that aren't coming to mind, but he's had moments where I said to you then after Swansea that it annoys me that people aren't watching him week in, week out to know just how good a goalkeeper he is. They're just watching this like one isolated moment. And like I said, after Swansea, I'm getting all these texts that were utter tripe. It was like, this goalkeeper, you're going nowhere with this goalkeeper's terrible. And I had to just copy and paste my answers. Like, you don't know what you talk about. You don't know how good this goalkeeper is. He is really, really good. And he's getting better. Like, he is ascending as a player, which is amazing. Max is another that is ascending. But on Arthur specifically, it was the most Arthur way to finish the shootout as well. He saves the penalty against Hutchinson, dives right away. Great save that. I don't know if it hits him in the face or he actually hits his gloves or what, but he keeps it out nonetheless. And he just kind of nonchalantly walks off, and everyone else is going crazy, and it nonchalantly turns to the tech end. But yeah, we've got a bit of a habit of sort of iconic penalty saves. I mean, you'd be tough to beat Ben Foster's against Notts County, but yeah, look, it's not a competition that Arthur will care about. He saved the penalties. He was great. He made some big saves as well. Made some really big saves. Not much he could have done about any of the goals. Definitely not number one and number three, and maybe the second one if you were being harsh. But I wouldn't apportion any blame to Arthur. And yeah, I'm really, really thrilled for him personally. Like I say, we've maybe picked out some other players, but he's deserved that in front of so many eyes and so many people watching. It was about time he basically put up the middle finger to people that said he's not a good goalkeeper.
How nice it was as well that, we've already banished Notts County away and we basically run Nottingham now, mate. Like, just give us the whole county if you want to. After the break, myself and Nath will also now name our two standout players from the game who we still can't really decide who man of the match is. We'll go give it to them both, but stay tuned. Have a little think who you think they might be.
Okay, Rich, you mentioned it. We're a little bit torn. I mean, there's loads. All of them were amazing. But, man of the match goes to one person and you have to give it to somebody. I want you to make your case. I'll make mine. And then people in the comments can let us know who they think. And obviously, we've got some of your correspondence to read out as well. But make your case then. Wrexham beat Nottingham Forest, knock them out of the FA Cup. Who would you be giving the man of the match award to?
For me, there's only one option. Cal the Dragon, Callum Doyle. What a performance that was. Incredible. We know how capable he is as sort of a ball-playing defender, and I feel like that means that his actual defensive attributes often get overlooked. But that was a heroic performance from him. He was blocking everything. He's thrown his body on the line, playing with that passion, that tenacity, and just that fight and inner spirit, really. And it wasn't just the blocks. There was, I think it was at Hudson-Odoi, in the second half. There's this slide tackle he does on the edge of the box where he wins the ball back, gets rid of it, he scores a penalty in the shootout, celebrates it so passionately. And like Callum Doyle, we've been saying all season, you've got to make it work with Callum Doyle at some point. And, there was a stage where he was out of the team and we were struggling to see how he'd get back in. Someone kind of needed to fall out for injury or a mistake for him to come back in. And he's responded so well. And, his CV speaks for itself. He's an exceptional championship defender. He's clearly probably Wrexham's most experienced player. Maybe not experienced player at this level, but in terms of defensive ability, maybe he's got the best track record at championship level just for what he has achieved. I know Dom Hyam's done loads and he's a really good, steady defender, but Callum Doyle's just got that higher ceiling. He's maybe a bit more of a fluctuating talent right now at such a young age, and maybe underestimated how tough it would be for him coming to a new club, learning a new system, playing a different style of football under Parky. But right now, we are seeing what an immense talent he is. And we also seeing why Man City included a buyback clause for him, because that isn't just a throwaway gesture they've put in the deal to protect their own sort of interest long term. It's because they do believe that this guy could go on to be a Premier League standard defender. And it felt like a real night for him to showcase the world how good he is. And interest as well that one of his mates, McAtee, is on the other team. They were growing up in the City Academy together, and they'll both know all about each other. And Doyle was like, I might be playing in the Championship, but I'm going to be playing in the Premier League one year. And I was blown away by his performance.
I was just going to pose you the hypothetical for your case of, well, Man City right now are very, very stretched defensively. And they've recalled Max Allen, who was at Watford, I believe, on loan.
Mm.
And as we're recording this, Man City are playing Exeter in the third round of the FA Cup, and Max Allen has scored. Hypothetically speaking, if Callum Doyle was on loan and wasn't a permanent, is he lining up for Man City today against Exeter? Absolutely. I would say there's every chance.
Yeah. And again, that is why we are so lucky that we managed to buy him outright. That is such an incredible piece of business. He's a Wrexham player. And again, we've spoken a lot in recent weeks, haven't we, about how we can sometimes forget that these new players, this isn't casting any sort of dirt on them. It's like they maybe don't get it until they've experienced it for themselves. And we've had the Cov win, we've had the Sheffield United win, we've now had that massive cup game. It's like, no, they are playing for a massive club. Yeah, he might have left Man City, who are on another level, worldwide sort of appeal. But he gets it. He knows how big a club Wrexham are and how good it can be when we've got those nights. And if you give us, and goes to all the players, and we saw it on Friday night, if you give us your all and work your socks off and don't leave anything on the pitch, we will love you and respect you and we'll be so proud of you and we won't ever criticise you if you're trying your best and giving your all. And for me, Doyle was the absolute epitome of that. I'm so pleased for him because, again, I felt that he maybe arrived with this reputation of being just a silky defender. He had that red card against Oxford. Things weren't quite going right for him. He's really frustrating for me to watch at times. I was like, come on, mate, I know you're so good. Why is it not clicking for you? And that can be down to so many reasons. But it all sort of came together on Friday night, and it was just the perfect performance because he was good on the ball. He was really adventurous and expressive and took those risks and made sure that we could play out from the back against a Premier League team. But then also every time Forest had a shot, he put his entire body on the line. And yeah, for me, Callum Doyle will play of the match.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely pitch. It really is. You make a lot of really salient points. I thought he played brilliantly. You're just wrong. He's not the man of the match, unfortunately. But he's a lovely pitch, don't get me wrong. And Callum Doyle did play excellently. The man of the match is absolutely, without a shadow of any doubt, it is George Dobson, who I thought was truly, honestly outstanding. For 2 hours of football, he was running around, for want of a better phrase, like a blue-ass fly. He didn't stop. 2 hours of football in the engine room of the game against Douglas Luiz, against Morgan Gibbs-White. Like, are we being so for real right now? Players that played in the Champions League, players that are valued at, what was Gibbs-White valued at, like 70, 80 million or something when he was nearly going to Tottenham? Ben Sheaf I thought was great as well, but he went off and he was able to sit down, probably get one of them energy gels and chill out and watch the game like the rest of us. George Dobson was still tearing around. Okay, I think he gets 2 assists. The first one to Kakache, I think the finish is maybe a lot better than the assist. But when we're going to look back, right, at assists of the season and like pass of the season and goals of the season, there's been some don't get me wrong, there's been some incredible assists, and Dobson over the years has produced some crackers. Blackpool to James McLean, phenomenal first time ball. The ball he puts in, I don't know what noise Adam McCoy's made on commentary when that ball went in, but he was a lot more giddy about the ball in from Doyle. You got me confused there even for a second. From Dobson than he was with the Hyam header. That ball from George Dobson is, I don't want to say anything's like undefendable because everything can be defended on a football pitch, but that is as good a ball in, as good a cross as you are going to see at the racecourse this season. That was 10 out of 10, no notes. Dom Hyam probably couldn't believe his luck that it was right on the money. It's also a really good finish from Hyam, but to play in midfield, don't get me wrong, Doyle put absolute body on the line, defended heroically when Forest really went at us and kind of turned the screw. But the way Dobson, with like a crumb of energy left, was still turning his man. He was still sort of doing near Cruyff turns in the middle against Gibbs White and Nico Williams and all these top Premier League talents that came on. And by the end, they had about 7 or 8 what I would deem Premier League starters out there. By the end, it wasn't a complete reserve team. By the end, we got over the line and weathered the storm against proper Premier League players there. And the effort put forth by George Dobson, there were a lot of superlatives around, but he was as good as any of those you want to choose. I honestly thought individually that was one of the best singular displays I've seen from a Wrexham player in any game all season.
Yeah, I fully agree with that praise from him as well. And I think for 2 points. First one was I didn't realise till I got home that Dobson was the guy who put that cross in from the free kick. Because I was like, it didn't even cross my mind that Dobson could do that. No offense, I know his passing's better than we give him credit for, but I was like, I think I probably presumed that it was like Windass who put that in, because like that is from like your most creative player. Like that is incredible delivery. And again, the other thing is you mentioned it and you used the clip early in the season, Dobson having to prove himself because he's never done it at championship level before. And he proved himself at Premier League level effectively on Friday night. Like he stepped up and he just gave it his all. And to bring it back onto the point that I made with Doyle as well, it's that effort and that desire and that tenacity and that pride and just sacrificing it all for the greater good of the team. That is why we love people like George Dobson, because he is not technically Wrexham's best football player, but no one gives as much as him every single week.
Rich, you know what it is as well, though, is that of all the outfield players that Wrexham started with, he was the only one that cost a free transfer. And if you were
all that money we spend on players,
if you were a talent evaluator, you were a scout, and I said, right, just name a price for each of these players out there. Just give us a ballpark figure. I can assure you that the value they would have put on George Dobson's display would have been very high, or far higher than many others. And looking at that Wrexham team, Matt Jones actually put out a tweet with Wrexham's kind of how much they paid for each player. He said, free for Okonkwo, and some of these are at the upper end of what we paid as well. So free for Okonkwo, Longman around 500,000, maximum about 2.7 million for Hyam, 300k for Scar, 7.5 million for Doyle, 2.2 million for Kakache, 6.5 million for Sheaf, Dobson free, Rathburn about 500k, Broadhead 10 million, see if all the add-ons get triggered, and Smith about 2.5 million. The bench, McLean about 250 grand, O'Brien 5 million, 1.2 million for Thomason, 300,000 for Rodriguez, 100k-ish for Barnett, Windass was on a free, total of 39 million. So, and
Morgan Gibbs White was valued to 65 mil?
65, 70 million, yeah.
Okay.
And Hudson-Odoi and
a fairy tale. Let me tell you this: there was nothing special about that Wrexham win. Okay, it's
Rich will get over that. And also quickly, while I remember, just want to give out some shout outs. I was bookmarking like crazy on Twitter last night. So many great posts, and the Wrexham Lowdown, one of my favorite accounts on X, and they put a post that said, with their first goals for the club, and Dom Hyam's first goal for the club as well, Kakache and Dom Hyam become the 52nd and 53rd different player to score a first-team goal for Wrexham under Phil Parkinson. The likes of Thomason, Sheaf, Kabore, Doyle and Scar will hopefully break their ducks soon. So that might be a good quiz question down the line. And also Ian Dennis, who is a really good commentator for
Yeah.
5 Live, does a lot of Premier League games, and I think might be a Bradford fan. He put a post that said, if you know, you know, Phil Parkinson, as Bradford City manager, saw them win 9 consecutive penalty shootouts, an English football record. And he prepped his side to perfection again as Wrexham knocked out Nottingham Forest. Now, I'm not being funny. People say lottery, and I agree. Penalties are a lottery. There is some things you can do. You can practice, you can practice, you can practice. But when you hear that Parky won 9, a record number of penalty shootouts, I mean, at what point do we stop saying it's a fluke? He clearly deserves an immense amount of credit for both the goal. I know they've got to execute it. I know Arthur's got to save it and the players have got to score, but it's an incredible record, that.
Of course, I think, again, the other incredible sort of asset of that is because of the way the game unfolded, Wrexham finished the game with their reserve, like a reservish side in elements, with McLean and Rodriguez on the pitch, and Forest finished with their strongest team on the pitch because they brought their guys on. So Forest basically had most of their 5 best penalty takers that they'd want. If Forest were playing an FA Cup semi-final, their penalty takers would have been the same 5 who took at the racecourse on Friday night. Whereas if Wrexham were playing an FA Cup a semi-final, whatever, you'd like to think, in Wrexham's dream, if Wrexham could choose a 5 players to take penalties, it wouldn't have been the 5 who took them, you'd say, against Forest. And when it was getting closer and closer to penalties and we were starting to look around and be like, don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this could go to pens, I was like, who's going to take them? I was like, I couldn't really envisage the players who would step up and take them and step up and score. And again,
Rich, can I be honest? As well? I don't know what it was like in the tech end, but I don't want to do some revisionism here, but when Jay Rodriguez stepped up, there was an intake of breath, I can assure you, in the Mold Road. A lot of people saying, no, you are the last person I want to take a penalty. And so I want to say fair play to Jay Rodriguez. And Parky made a point after of saying, Jay Rodriguez is the ultimate professional. Like he doesn't kick up a fuss. He sets standards in training. You need people like him in the building. And I know we can only really judge him on what we see, which is the games. Yeah. We're not privy to what everything goes on behind the scenes. But Parky chooses his words carefully, and he likes to pick out certain players at certain moments. And yes, it's a cool penalty from Rodriguez. Don't get me wrong, you have to score that. I think McLean's missed one earlier. He's a really experienced player. He doesn't kick up a fuss. And from what Parky was saying, he wanted to give a lot of credit to Jay Rodriguez, even though I think when he came on, he had a fairly minimal impact, I thought, but fair play to him. His impact extends way beyond the white lines of the pitch, and he said himself he was nervous when he went up because I bet he could hear the anxiety that was around the ground when he stepped up, and that's probably unfair on him, but it was just that was the reaction at the time. That was just how people were feeling. So yes, it was great for Arthur. It was also great for Rodriguez because had he missed and had it gone wrong, he would have been personally scapegoated, I think, by a lot of people. So delighted for him and delighted he got his flowers off Parky as well.
Yeah, I think J-Rod is well aware of his perception amongst lots of Wrexham fans who think he's just happy to sort of pick up a living and not do much. Like, he would have been contemplating, again, for his career, it looked like his career was over last summer. Like, oh, that's it. He's probably never going to play for Wrexham again, probably never play football again. For him to suffer for 6 months, be out of the team and not have a chance of playing, and to have that injury, and to still stay motivated to want to come back. Like, he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need to achieve certain things in his career because he's done that. He's played for his national team. He's played in the Premier League, but he wanted to, and he wanted to give back to the fan base. He wanted to give back to Phil Parkinson, and he has fought so hard behind the scenes. He's been, like you said, this model professional. And there was like you said, there is always sometimes a willingness for people to make a miss. You could be like, oh, I told you so. He's the scapegoat. It's all bloody J-Rod's fault. We gave our all, but J-Rod's just not good enough. But he stepped up. He kept his cool. He did it. And there's a real release of emotion. I think the other fascinating thing as well, Nath, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but his only Wrexham goal was scored against Stockport when he missed a penalty and scored a rebound. Like,
oh, he scored. I think he scored down at Exeter, didn't he, as well?
Did he as well?
In that season? But yeah, you're remembering that was one instance, where
he missed the penalty and scored the rebound.
I remember he missed it. I remember he missed. Was it an open goal at Mansfield? I think maybe his first game or one of his early games, and really from that point on, it's like there's been so little trust in him. And you knew full well, like I said, 9 shootouts and all that. Parky knew he was going to score. Parky knew. Parky would have expected all of them to score. So when McLean, and if you watch the McLean one back, it looks bad in real time, but it's inches away from being like an unbelievably perfect penalty.
He went high risk there, like fair play.
Those are the margins, aren't they? Those are the margins. It goes in, everyone says that's like one of the best penalties they've ever seen, and if it misses, you look a fool. But McLean's got broad shoulders to handle it, and so has Rodriguez. So but we're going to get onto some of your thoughts after a very quick break, and then we'll be wrapping it up. But yeah, this is what you made of the game.
Well, Nath, we got loads of messages on all the socials. Again, thank you so much to all of you who get involved with this podcast. Rob Ryan Red, at gmail.com, Rob Ryan Red on all the social media platforms as well. I got 2 messages, got one from Luke, and he said this. This is when we posted on Instagram saying we're going to record the podcast tomorrow and let us know your thoughts. And Luke replied, he said, Doyle was immense at the back tonight. These last few weeks, he's really grown. Makes me feel a bit more comfortable, especially if the rumours of Max going are true. Get onto those very shortly, won't we, Nathan? Give people an extra bonus. He said, Dobson stepped up to this stage so well. Absolute legends, all of them. Also got a message off Jamie who said, for me, it was Doyle. This is a huge, huge claim. He said, Doyle has got the potential to be Wrexham's best ever centre-back. I mean...
Whoa. I mean,
he's
I hope
got a lot
that's
of work
true.
still to do, but
yes, I hope that's true.
He's not hampered his cause, has he?
We got a brilliant email, robbrown@gmail.com from Brendan Lightrich, who put, wow, what a night, absolute magic at the Kairos. I have to think this is the kind of match that has multiple knock-on effects. Number 1, instilled belief in the current squad that after 4 wins in a row and tonight's win, who can't they go on and beat? Number 2, major momentum and confidence going forward for the whole squad, even the guys that don't always play regularly. Number 3, the manager and board have to now believe that they can go on a run, not just for the playoffs, but for automatic promotion, since they're only 6 points off that. This moment might feel like they can inject they might feel they can inject some more quality to help get over the line after showing the levels against Forest. And number 4, players on other teams might be now calling their agents to come and play with this group and be part of something special. Those special teams don't come along that often. And then these players might catch Wrexham fever. Cheers from Florida. While I just go through some of our Instagram DMs, Rich, I mean, I think Brendan's right. If you're a player, a couple of thoughts. If you're a player umming and ahhing about maybe do I want to go to Wrexham, I mean, that's not a bad advert on Friday night. And secondly, if you can beat Nottingham Forest, yes, I know they made changes. Yes, I know it was a penalty shootout. But momentum is absolutely with Wrexham right now, and momentum, as we've seen, can last quite a while if you want it to and you embrace it. So, yeah, I mean, I bet you Ryan was there thinking, oh, we're not that far away here from doing something even more special than we've already done.
I was going to ask you a question, Nathan. I know we've spoken about this question so many times in the past, and I think the actual answer is why not both? But here's my question for you, Nath. This season, would you rather get to the Premier League or get to an FA Cup final?
No. If you're saying we just get to the final, I love the Cup, but losing in the final is not the same as... If you ask me winning the FA Cup or getting to the Premier League, I would take winning the FA Cup every single time. 100 out of 100. It wouldn't even be... Because you could go up, immediately come back down. Yes, you got 100 million, but what? Are you going to have amazing memories for that? Yes, going up be incredible. Winning the FA Cup, I cannot tell you that Wigan fans would change that. That moment of beating City in the final, winning the FA Cup. But if you're just offering me getting to the final, no, I will take the 100 million in the Premier League. Thank you very much. Here's a question for you though from Ken Rich, who sent us an Instagram DM that said, "Question for the pod. I don't understand why Premier League teams with no shot at a top 5 finish don't take cup games, Carabao and FA Cup, more seriously and put top teams out. Teams like Nottingham Forest have no shot of getting into Europe or keeping up with Arsenal or Man City over the course of this season, but they can go and beat them in a one-off cup game and actually win something for their fans instead of just finishing between 10th and 15th every year." I think that is a real thing, isn't it? That the one thing about it, if we one day do become a solidified Premier League team, I would really hate for us to become this team that that would rather finish 15th in the Prem than give it a go in the third round of the FA Cup.
Yeah, I've not got the exact numbers to hand, but I remember them a little bit off the top of my head from last season. But the cost of getting relegated from the Premier League, that is crippling for lots of clubs. It changes everything. You have loads of redundancies. You've got to scale back your operations. The academy can be scaled back. You've got to sell loads of players. You've got to start again. It's so difficult, even with parachute payments. But relegation from the Premier League kills a lot of these clubs. And your TV share goes down. All your sponsorships are suddenly just cut down to 1/10 of what they were. The Premier League is genuinely, as we'll find out next season, is a completely different, seismic world. And then for each Premier League place you get, I think it's worth a few £1 million. So if you finish, the difference between finishing sort of 14th and 15th, you get. So I've not got the numbers to hand.
I get it, Rich. I get it, but it's one game.
Money,
you know what I mean? It's like one game.
Yeah, but what I was going to say, for winning a Premier League game, I think this was a fact that was going around last season. Like winning a Premier League match tends to get you more in terms of match day revenue and prize money than winning the FA Cup does. Because I think the prize money for winning the FA Cup, I know it's not about the prize money with the FA Cup, but it is such a secondary thought for lots of these teams because they're so focused on just staying in the Premier League. And I always think, but what's the point? Like you said, I don't want to just become a Premier League team whose only focus is to stay in the Premier League. I don't find that fun. You need to have that ambition. And I want, for me, I would rather see Wrexham win the FA Cup than ever get to the Premier League, genuinely. I want 100%. To see our name on that trophy. You can't ever change that. And I know for once in my life, I'm starting to think, we could maybe one day get to an FA Cup, last four, or the final.
Rich, there it was at the turf on Thursday, the hallowed turf rename. That was very good, actually. I don't know how much say Wayne had in that, but very, very good. I enjoyed that. Couple more then. Kobe Smith on Instagram said, I thought Parky was taking off subs too early, such as Kakache and Rathburn, when we had no need to, which left us thin on options later in the game. I could be overthinking this, but what are your lads' thoughts? For me, Rich, I mean, you go first, but for me, I would say tired legs. Kakache's only just, come back in. It was, I felt like our subs were maybe needs must.
Yeah, I just don't think Parky had much else he could do. The players had given their all. We've had a really busy few weeks as well. I know that there's been a break since the Derby game, sort of Sunday to Friday, but Wrexham have won 5 games in a row with a festive fixture period. That is incredible. To do that is absolutely just remarkable achievement, but you still need to protect these players. They played so much football this season. And Parky, again, this is the thing, to almost go back on what we've just said ourselves. We both want to see a cup run. We want to see Wrexham go as far as we can. We'll get onto fourth round opponents shortly. But the fact is that for Parky, he knows that the Premier League, the playoffs and a possible path to the Premier League is it's genuinely achievable right now with the seeing how it's going. And he can't risk playing players for an extra 10 minutes against Nottingham Forest when he needs them to be fit for when we've got Norwich and then we've got Leicester and we've got another few busy weeks in the league coming up. But you've got to protect your long-term interests. I still think, and this isn't me, this is maybe a weird take for some people, I still think that it showed that maybe we need better strength and depth eventually on the bench. I know we're missing some key players due to injuries and absences, etc. But you still think, maybe we do just need to have people who can come off the bench and stretch the game a little more as the season goes on, because it's so tight right now, and the bench could be, what decides it for us.
Rich, I'm going to read 2 more, and then we'll reflect on those, and then we can get into Max going to Villa or not going to Villa, as the case may be. We've got one from Hunter that said, hey, Nathan, Rich, what a night. The thing I kept thinking was that I can't imagine a better advertisement for prospective January signings than this. Just magical. Who wouldn't want to be part of that? Do you think it'll have any impact on the window? Would love to hear your thoughts. And Reese sent us a message that said, it felt like Sean Dyche thought it would be an easier game and played his reserves. He quickly realised his mistakes and made changes at half-time. Wrexham played incredible. Special shout out to Broadhead and Doyle, who have been consistently fantastic recently. And of course, Big Arthur, Wrexham's greatest ever goalkeeper. I would love to know what Parky was thinking dropping him at the start of the season. So we've gone over quite a lot of those points, Rich. But, I mean, on the transfer front, you'd be amazed how many players talk to other players and are often saying, come here, come join me. You know what I mean? A lot of these lads have been in and around a lot of different teams, and they know a lot of different people. And I can assure you that last night, some of those lads were getting text off current players in the Championship, maybe in the Prem, that were saying, "Oh, I wouldn't mind a bit of that," basically. And it's just a timely reminder, Rich, isn't it? You know, I think Wrexham was an attractive proposition anyway, but sometimes people just need a little nudge, little wink, wink, and that was a good one.
Yeah, I still think that you've got an element of that now we've gone to the Championship where it's like everyone knows about Wrexham as this commercial entity and this brand that we've become, and Ryan Reynolds will be there. You get a phone call of him and Rob Mack, and that's great. But they also, lots of players, it's such a short playing career. You don't want to join a club that's not got ambition. And fair enough, you know, you might glance at league tables and stuff, but you want to see for yourself, what is this team actually doing? Are they on the way up? What can they achieve? And seeing what Wrexham produced on Friday night and just seeing, like we said, those core fundamentals of the Parky team, that is the best sales pitch you could give to anyone. So if there's a player who's got an offer for, do you know what I mean? This isn't to throw too much shade at anyone particularly, but if you're looking at, if you're a player now in the Premier League and you've got an offer to either join Hull, Stoke or Wrexham, that's 7th, 8th or 9th in the Championship. If you're watching the game on Friday night, I think you're saying, get me to the racecourse ground. I want to be a part of that. They're the team I want to join for the final 6 months of the season. So, yeah, we'll see.
Right, round 4 then quickly, and then I'll tell you what, shall I just read out the quote from Phil Parkinson about what he said about Max? Because there's been this rumour going around that Max is off to Aston Villa. He wasn't in the team on Friday night. He wasn't even on the bench. I got a text off you, and people around you were saying it's all sort of done, and we're getting Ross Barkley in exchange, and all sorts of silly season, they call it, the January transfer window, for a good reason. Well, anyway, on the record, Phil Parkinson was asked, Max not involved. Been some suggestion that he's been linked to Aston Villa. Have you got anything to say on that? Parky said, no, I haven't heard that at all. Max is very much part of our plans. He had a problem with his groin. We decided that whatever happened, win or lose at Derby, we would rest him tonight. So I think we can maybe put down the effigy of Max Cleworth and chill out. He's still here. He's still going to be playing. And hopefully he can guide us all the way to the Premier League. So this Aston Villa talk, I think we can firmly put to bed, Rich. And then now we can look ahead to round 4, which is on Valentine's weekend. So how are you looking at round 4? Then obviously we're recording right now. A lot of the games are still ongoing. How are you looking at it? Because obviously Friday night ourselves went through. Oxford United of the Championship went through. League One's Port Vale went through. And League One Wigan went through. Early kickoffs, Leicester are through. Sunderland are through. 6th tier Macclesfield FC are through. They've knocked out holders Crystal Palace, and Wolves knocked out Shrewsbury 6-1. As the time recording, it's just for a bit of fun. We'll see how these age, because we've got halfway through most of these games. Burton Albion 2-0 up against Boreham Wood. Burnley 3-0 up against Millwall, so you expect them to go through. Southampton 3-1 up against Doncaster. Premier League Fulham losing to Middlesbrough, Championship Middlesbrough. Ipswich are beating Blackpool 1-0. Man City 4-0 up against Exeter. Newcastle 0-0 against Bournemouth, Sheffield Wednesday 0, Brentford 1, and Stoke 0, Coventry 0. So who knows how they'll shake out. Some of those look done and dusted. City, Southampton, Burnley, Burton, etc. What do you want then? Because in our group chats sort of this morning, it was some friends saying, give us an easy on paper tie. See if we can go as far as we can because we're into the last 32 of the FA Cup. And others saying, just give us the biggest away tie we can. Give us that Premier League away.
Yeah, I mean, I just really hope that if Middlesbrough do win at Craven Cottage, they don't get too excited because it is only a Championship team beating a Premier League team, and we know that is not worth celebrating. For me, I think I just want passage to the next round now. And this isn't disparaging because there's no game that you're certain to win, but I think I want one of the lowest ranked teams at home, really, and just give yourself the best chance of getting as far into the competition as you can. I've had a taste for Premier League upsets and I love it. And look, if that's where the cup run comes to an end and we're out in the 4th round, fair enough. I've had a core memory that's going to live with me forever, and that's great. I don't want to get too greedy, too carried away by that. I do just feel there's more to give for this Wrexham team right now, and the fact that the next round is just on a weekend, it means Bristol City away will get moved to a midweek. It's that prospect to go further, and of course that's got to be your ambition now. We've not got to prove that anymore, that we can beat a Premier League team. We have done it. Of course, again, some people will say, well, you've not beaten one of the top Premier League teams. I'm not going to be turning my nose up if we get drawn against Man City away on Monday night when the draw does take place. But I think personally, if I could choose, I'd want maybe Macclesfield at home. I seem to remember, was it the FA? I think in the 14-15 season when we got to Stoke away in the third round, I'm pretty sure we drew 2-2 Macclesfield away in the fourth qualifying round and then beat them 4-0 maybe at home in the racecourse. So I think again, to have gone from playing Macclesfield in the fourth qualifying round to the fourth round, that would be great for me. I'd love that. I want Wrexham to play the lowest ranked team possible at home, I think.
And look, that could go swimmingly, and we could progress to the fifth round, last 16. But I'm going to stress, I think Wrexham have looked at their best when they have less of the ball and when they're more of an underdog, which I think when you're playing better opposition, we looked good against Forest. I know it was a ding-dong game. We looked good against Coventry. Ipswich, we looked defensively very, very solid against a good team. Southampton, that feels a lifetime ago now. With a completely different team than what we've got now. Yes, there have been games where we've been able to be the aggressor and be aggressive. But I don't know. You'd want a home draw really, but I would love for the players and just everyone associated with the club to get that big game if they get through St James's Park or because some of these players, let's be real, if and when we ever do get to the Premier League, a lot of these players might never kick a ball for us, and they might never kick a ball in the Premier League. That might never happen for them. They might never play at Man City. It's not like they're all going to be Callum Doyle or Arthur Okonkwo or Max, who we think are ascending. Some of these players just are what they are. I love what Dom Heim is doing. I love what George Dobson is doing. I love what Ben Sheaf is doing. But, I don't expect any of those to get poached from us by Premier League teams this month or in the summer. So, if we go up and they play for us, great. But, imagine the opportunity to play at an Arsenal or if they get through a Liverpool, what Barnsley are getting. So I agree with you. If we can get a Macclesfield at home, great. But there's something about those big occasions that we seem to thrive in, and we don't so much when we're the favourite.
Can I say, so the only thing for me on that is, I think as an occasion, as a spectacle, as a fan, I would love to go away to one of these massive stadiums and watch Wrexham there, because it'd be pinch me to see us at the Emirates or something. And, we go there for work a couple of times a season, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. Imagine little old Wrexham playing here. But we've seen today, at the time of recording, City are winning 5-0 at home to Exeter. But I think if we were playing Man City away, they kind of just swat us to one side. But I think if we're playing Man City at the Kairos, we've got a much better chance because it's not on their terms. It's not comfortable for them. They don't go in there plush. They don't get their warm welcome to the stadium. They don't get all the fans gushing over them. They don't have that if they come to North Wales. So as much as I would love one of the elite of world football to come to the racecourse, but I'm not sure I've got too much interest in watching us go to the Etihad and maybe lose 5 or 6.
Imagine Erling Haaland putting one into the Tech End, though, just as a kind of core memory. Anyway, maybe getting carried away. But I see the point. I see the point. I see the argument.
My point is then, I just want to ask you, do you want an away game or a home game next round? For that, if it was going to be one of these elite teams, would you rather go to the Emirates or would you rather have Arsenal back at the racecourse?
They're both really good options. I mean, I guess I'm being pointed towards at home, right? But I'm just going to stand on it. I would like a big away tie for the entire club. I think, because like I say, with these players, with these managers, you don't know if they're ever going to get the chance to like when Parky took Bradford to Stamford Bridge and beat Jose Mourinho. I think the question, I'm not saying it's a bad question, Rich, but it's kind of being phrased as if we'll have absolutely no hope if we go to these places. Yeah. And probably not. You are relying on a miracle, as Exeter are finding out today. But, A, we're a better team than Exeter. And B, if you get knocked out by Semenyo, Haaland, Shirky, I think we can all live with that. And it's an opportunity to test yourselves against the very best. So yes, would we probably have a better chance at home? Yes. But for Parky, for these players, I would just love them to have that moment. That's why I really wanted Mullin in previous time to get that game at Anfield, to get that game at an Everton or somewhere, so that you have something that that's really special that you might never ever get to do yourself. So, and Mullen is playing Liverpool this week behind closed doors, but I'm not sure it's going to have quite the same appeal. So no, I'm gonna be different to you and just be contrary and say go with a big away tie.
There you have it then. Arsenal away confirmed in the fourth round. A conquest, a chance for you to show them what they're missing. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us for this fairy tale episode of Rob, Ryan, Red. As always, thank you very much to Red 10 People Development for continued support of the podcast, and to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for the music, the stings we hear in the show. Once again, though, thank you to all of you for following the podcast, getting involved. You can always messages, robryanred@gmail.com, messages through the website as well, and on the socials. We do try and read all your messages. We just can't get back to them all. Let us know in the comments below. Doyle or Dobson, who was right, myself or Nath? And yeah, take care. We'll see you again in midweek. Wrexham are in the fourth round of the FA Cup. What a fairy tale.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Faye.